T-minus 30 seconds to impact. 27, 24.
Listening to the computer do differences made me edgy in the face of crisis. I wasn't sure who had programmed the damn thing to count down in threes, but I made a mental note to track him down and strangle him, if I managed to survive.
15, 12 seconds.
I yanked on the controls hard. The ship leaned sharply into the turn, but the asteroid was simply too long and I had too much speed relative to it. At best, I was going to skim the surface and rip open the belly of the craft. At worst, I'd splash on the surface like a Christmas ornament dropped on pavement.
6 seconds. Brace for impact.
I jumped for the duplicod, slamming my limbs down into the slots. My right knee caught awkwardly on the lip of the device, making me tumble in heavily. The padding caught me and inflated. The door slammed shut automatically as the asteroid's pocked surface flashed beneath my mining vessel.
0 seconds.
I could see the shattered remnants of my ship's tail above me, floating against the darkness. The entire aft section of the craft, from cargo to thrusters, had been grated off as I had skidded along the asteroid's surface. Just beyond the sealed windows lay nothingness, an open floor into the gulf of space. My pod was cracked, too. Crazed panes of duroplastic were all that separated me from the vacuum. My ears were still ringing from the concussion. Even through the padding around me, it had been quite an impact. But I was awake, which meant I was alive, and the duplicod appeared to be holding air and ringing its beacon. So all I really needed to do was to sit back and relax, and I'd wake up to a rescue. I just hoped it didn't take too long. Last time I'd missed an entire season of Iceball, including my spot in the betting pool. And it was somewhat disconcerting to come out of a pod and discover that the junior officer you'd been lording it over now had seniority on you. But it was better than being dead. I sat back, easing into the comfortable cushions, and waited. And waited. And waited. And waited. The duplicod, however, didn't seem to be killing me. I checked its status monitor.
Functional. Some errors occurred. Please see logs.
I'd never really learned much about the damn things. They worked great, were pretty much foolproof, and since the Corp paid for them, I'd never even bothered to read the manual. Well, it was the first time for everything.
Instructions for use. 1. Enter the duplicod. Ensure all extremities are completely within the pod, and close the door. 2. Relax. The duplicod operates automatically and silently. 3. When help arrives, you will be regenerated automatically and will awaken refreshed. 4. Please exit the duplicod at this time so it can reset for the next user. Remember to take all of your personal belongings with you.
Well, that wasn't much help. We seemed to be stuck on step number 2, so I thumbed the pad there. It expanded into a little animation of a space tower pulling up and hauling in a beat-up-looking duplicod, complete with a flashing red light on the outside. No doubt because flashing red lights are extra cool. A voiceover droned on about how safe and effective the process was. I slammed the pad in disgust. The monitor blipped again.
System scan completed and verified. System damaged. Estimated remaining life support, 81 hours. 14 minutes at current consumption rate. Self-termination advised. Please see section 4.6.
Self-termination, huh? Well, I guess the old pod had gotten a little rattled in the crash. Its needle might be broken. Hell, the whole tank of poison might have been scraped off. But it seemed pretty confident in its read, so I flipped over to section 4.6, which turned out to be a list of humane ways to off yourself. Number 15.
Gifting by projective energy.
Seemed relevant, so I pulled out my lasgun and, wait a minute. What if the pod was so badly damaged it couldn't regenerate me? Well, happy you laughed. Dead in the duplicod. Well, I brought the pistol up again. It turns out it's surprisingly hard to kill yourself. I put the pistol away for a minute while I thought things through. 1. I was stuck in a duplicod of unknown condition. According to its readouts, I had a bit over 80 hours of life left, the last few of which would be spent in an asphyxiating coma. I had no food or water, so most of that would be very hungry time. In comparison, if it worked right, the duplicod had a 100% chance of regenerating me, and without all this needless worry, I've never heard of the things failing. But this wasn't an intact duplicod. It was pretty beat up from the asteroid impact. It claimed it had a good read on me, but what if its diagnostics were broken? What if it only had a partial read? What if I came back as a vegetable, only able to use words that started with the letter L or something stupid like that? I just didn't have enough data. But still, no need to worry about it right now. I had 70 or so hours to think it over, right? I could just lie back and die like a man, or I could keep after the thing. Who knows? Maybe I could even fix it.
Biological reservoir is empty.
This is the pool of polymorphic goo that the machine used to print a new body or to make repairs to an old one. So even if I had a good scan of my brain, they'd have to plug this machine into a working duplicapod and download me. The biologic system is for long-term storage of the brain pattern. The duplicapod was built to last for a long, long time, decades if it needed to be. The original idea was fairly straightforward. Biological material, usually artificial blood plasma since it's dirt cheap and has a good protein density,
Is stored in a reservoir and pumped past the info exchanger. Right heads act on the fluid as it goes by, tweaking spare links in the proteins to store information. Massively redundant encoding and continuous mixing provide resistance against data loss. Microscopic samples containing millions of protein molecules are taken continuously. Faulty data is repaired based on a consensus arrived at by majority vote among the dense array of read heads. It's safe, effective, and lasts basically forever.
provided the system doesn't dry out, or provided your pod doesn't get bounced off an asteroid. I'd finally gotten the system to fess up, and it seems like that's what happened. The reservoir, if I twist around, I can actually reach it over my shoulder. Got a hairline crack in it, and it voided to vacuum. That means no memory, no backup. The system dutifully recorded me, everything that was me, to plasma, but then it lost that recording right off the crack. I put the gun away for now.